all there is God. And as Rumi wrote, I searched for God and found nothing but myself. I searched for myself and found nothing but God. So obviously, even with the word God, we can have a concept about this. And when we speak about non-duality, we can create a concept about that. And when there is seeking, there can be a concept of what self-realization, enlightenment is. And in that, there's a constant movement away from what is. This isness, life. And this is totally, perfectly direct. It's here. It's visceral life. And in a way, as an overlay, there can be an agitation which emanates in so many ways, but it comes from that discomfort of wanting something else than this. And that can't be helped when there's a seeker, when the seeking energy is the vicious circle. It is itself, the seeking energy is the discomfort. So if that discomfort is there, then that is what is happening. So it's noticing, being with that discomfort, because that is how life is presenting itself. But if it's avoided, if it's not wanted, and there's always a movement towards an idea, a concept of how this should be or could be, which is always the conditional tense, something other than this, then there will be continued seeking. So this is talking about the end of seeking, the death of what we can only call the me, the illusory self. But this isn't a thing. We're talking about an energy, a contraction in the body that is viscerally felt and can't really be known that could disappear. It can't know other than it knows. So this is a remembering of our true nature. So if you've been seeking and you've been watching videos with different speakers about non-duality, it can take you down 1,000 rabbit holes, because as long as there is any form of agitation, the non-acceptance of this, however this is presenting itself, there will be, in a way, a wanting or a desire for example, a state. So a state of consciousness, meditating and to head to nirvana, as if it's a travel journey. And if a moment of expanded awareness or consciousness is experienced, whether you have an ayahuasca trip or a DMT trip or anything, take magic mushrooms, whoop-de-doo. As you will very clearly notice, if that is experienced, that comes and it goes. And it has nothing more significant, it is not better than any other experience that we could call a worldly experience. Sun rises, sun sets, clouds move in the sky, birds fly, all of these things come and go. So do all states. A state of happiness, a state of joy, a state of bliss, a state of nirvana, a state of sadness. All of these come and go. And wanting any particular state or way of being is a rejection of what is, and will remain in a contracted energy, because there's a very commonly used word in the human language, hope. Hope and desire, wanting. And in those words, there's an undercurrent of desperation, discomfort, rejection of this. So this cannot be understood cerebrally, conceptually. It is not a state attained. So going and trying to earn $1 million is the exact same as trying to have an expanded consciousness experience. It's an ephemeral, fleeting, worldly movement. And as long as that's being sought, then that's what's being sought. And it's only when, in a way, that is completely fatigued, when it is seen by maybe doing it and seeing how it comes and goes, and that you can't hang on to it. You can win a World Cup in any sport that we play on this planet, and you'll see that you're a world champion, and it is a moment and then it goes. And then you might spend the rest of your life talking about the day you won a trophy or a medal. But that moment is totally fleeting. So all life experience is perfectly fine, and anybody who wants to do anything is perfectly fine. So this is not talking about any of that. It's actually in the complete opposite direction, if I can express it that way. It's that there's no one doing it. It's the last stone that we would unturned as a seeker. There's an assumption as the seeker that I have to get somewhere, look somewhere, find something, experience something, evolve, become better. And what this is really pointing out, and it's energetic, is that there is life here now and nobody's doing it. Everything in this ephemeral world, including thoughts, feelings, emotions, body, sky, buildings, trees, everything rises and falls, comes and goes. And our true nature is what is infinite, is constant, doesn't come and doesn't go. It's always simply aware. It's simply noticing that you don't turn your ears on, your nose on, your mouth on for the senses of the body. They're just automatically always open, on. This is awareness or consciousness. It's constant. And whatever is happening is appearing in that. As long as we're trying to become the nothingness, to see the worldly, there's a play of duality where then that must be a thing to see this thing, but they are too stuck. It's this right here. It's happening. There's no off switch, there's no pause switch. And the mind wants to get to a state or to be able to catch it. So it wants to almost pause so that it can notice if there's a nothing or not a nothing, or whatever this thing that speakers talk about. So stop doing that if that's happening. It's not about fighting thought, controlling thought. I'll point at something here is that what we're talking about is absolute life being free, the freedom of it all, liberation. So if something is free, it can have no constraint, no restriction. So if we're in some concepts that I have to, that's a rule. That can't be freedom. If I have to always be silent, then how can that be freedom? If I have to sit in meditation, then how can that be freedom? Maybe meditation will happen, maybe not. Thinking might happen, thinking might not happen. Movement may happen, movement may not happen. Everything is free to just do anything. But there's just nobody doing it. It's happening. So this is nothing special. There may be a desire to attain something and for it to be special or to feel special. But this is the end of special. Everything equalizes. Where drinking a cup of coffee is life, enjoying coffee, and that is just as good. It is the same as going on a safari. It is what is happening. And so, because I've experienced this, gone through this, or whatever, it's perfectly understandable and normal for humans to want to, in a way, get to the pleasure and avoid the pain. Get to comfort and avoid the discomfort. So it's sort of like, if I get to this state, then I will be in peace. And that's not it. There is when the energetic contraction is released and we become all that is, then that allness is okay with the allness. The sadness becomes curious, becomes an interesting emotion to experience. It's the heaviness of it, the way the body can cry, just the fact that we can have tears. And then if there's joy, then there's experiencing that joy and that lightness in the body and the feeling of energy rising through the head, energy coming up the spine. And then, in a way, from that, you could say a wiser understanding, enjoying this contrast, that isn't sadness quite an experience, and isn't joy quite an experience, and I couldn't know this one if I didn't have this one. But as long as we're trying to tip the scale, and this is manifested in also the idea and the hope of having life our way. And that needs to be experienced, so that movement towards the idea of controlling life so that I can make it my way, that will continue to happen until it is seen clearly, with clarity, that it's like trying to change the trajectory of a planet within the cosmos. When we become more aware of the greater movements of life, that for this very moment to exist, everything that's ever happened had to happen to arrive at this point. And all of a sudden, there's me thinking, no, but it shouldn't happen this way. Every movement of every moon, of every planet, of every asteroid, of every galaxy had to have spun and moved the way it did for this. And that's bonkers. So for food to arrive on your table, water had to arrive on this planet, soil was imbibed, seeds from a mixture of star particles fusioned together and created plants, and plants grew, and then we had to learn how to cut them to be able to farm them and then cook them and bring them to a table to be able to eat. There's such an incredible intricacy to life, and it's understandable that because our human emotions can be quite strong and almost overbearing, that none of that seems to matter, because it's all about me. It's how am I feeling? I don't like this. So if there can be a stepping back and starting to look at life with the wonder, even if it's just for moments, we deepen our appreciation and understanding, which is a state of more gratitude. Because non-duality is, you could say, one thing, the realization of what our true essence is, but still within that, we're moving towards gratitude quite naturally and simply, bringing attention, looking at things in a much more simple way and being amazed at how that the existence of a table, the existence of the sky, and then what is a sky, what is a cloud, what is a tree. And if the mind begins to be, and this is other than worrying about awakening and all of these things, if the mind is directed towards these sorts of concepts or realities or thoughts, then we are inputting into this consciousness a much more beautiful feeling and evaluation of what is, and then our experience of that is lifted. But if we're always in the personal story of what I'm getting and what I'm not getting, chances are it will be quite a miserable one. So it's quite amazing because I have no idea that these particular words would come out. That's what's come out. So because ultimately any words that are said are just words. They just rise and they fall, they come and they go. And here this really is more of an energy exchange of just a satsang meaning to be sitting in truth, to feel the energy of peace here that is conveying to you a possibility, a suggestion. So, hope that helps you. Love to all. Have a great day.